tell me more about Gene Shepard's stomping grounds. Like, have you heard any stories about where events from the movie might have happened? A question for you. The Goldblatt's brothers, are they still around? And also, do they have family? Why do you think it's important to you, like your personal experience? Why is it important to preserve all of these places and the stories that all tie us together with the history of the movie and Hammond, Indiana? Welcome back, dear listeners, to another Major Award edition of Talking a Christmas Story with the cast. I'm your host, Yano Anaya, also known as that little bully, Grover Dill, from the classic Christmas movie, A Christmas Story. You know, every town has its lore keepers, the people who dedicate themselves to dusting off the old photo albums, to remembering the stories of each alleyway and gas station, to preserving that essence of what makes a place feel like home. In Hammond, Indiana, that one of those people is Tom Novak. Tom is the president of the Hammond Historical Society, and he's with us today to talk to us about Hammond, Indiana, the hometown of beloved American writer Gene Shepard and the birthplace of one of the most beloved Christmas movies of all time. More and more, we live in a world ruled by technology. News travels fast and seems to change even faster. And the faster things move, the more important it becomes to slow down and take the time to remember the past. Gene Shepard may have understood this when he wrote the semi-autobiographical stories that would later become the movie A Christmas Story. He lovingly chronicled the quaint charm of mid-century life in a small American town through his stories so that the feeling of these towns would never be lost. You see, history can slip right past us if we're not paying attention. That's why we appreciate folks like Tom Novak, keepers of the past, guardians of the memory. They're the ones who know that every street corner, every old shop, every yellowed photograph has a story to tell, and it's their job to make sure we don't forget. Tom has focused on doing extensive research into the many people, places, and events that inspired A Christmas Story. And we're going to talk all about it today. But before we do, I want to invite you to check us out on YouTube. Every week we release our episodes on all major podcast platforms. And we also release a video version of YouTube. So if you want to join us for this conversation, see what we look like, or leave a comment on the episode, we would love that. This week, we are super excited to welcome Tom Novak to the show. Tom is the president and a lifetime member of the Hammond Historical Society in Hammond, Indiana. Hammond is known for being the hometown of Gene Shepard, the legendary storyteller behind the movie A Christmas Story. Some of the fans may not know that this movie is somewhat autobiographical, so not only is Hammond the hometown of Gene Shepard, it's really the birthplace of this movie, and so much more. Tom has an incredible amount of knowledge and has done a lot of research into these events and characters from the movie. I cannot wait for him to tell us some of the amazing things he has learned. Thank you so much for coming out on the show today, Tom. With no further ado, Tom Novak. Tom Novak, welcome to Talking a Christmas Story with the cast. This is our podcast, and I'm super excited to kind of expose what it is that you do and how important your role is for us, the cast, and the movie, and also Hammond, Indiana. So, Tom, again, thank you very much for joining us today. And so from anybody who is listening, I also like to tell everybody we have a YouTube channel. If you want to go over to the YouTube channel and watch this video, I highly recommend that you do that. And so, Tom, question that I have for you is, anyone out there who may not have any idea about what your role is, what is a historical society? What is it? And what do you do in your role with Hammond Historical Society?
Hey, yeah. So Tom Logan Novak, I'm the president of the Hammond Historical Society last 2 years. We were incorporated in May of 1960, basically with the task of preserving and sharing the history of Hammond, Indiana, and its peoples and its places and its things. So, we organize, I think 6 or 7 times a year. We have presentations from either traveling people or local people on various topics, Saturday mornings at the Hammond Public Library. We also have our Susan G. Long Calumet room, which is where we store all our, old photos, donated materials, things like that. So the big thing is just preservation and then getting the word out and getting people engaged with history. So
amazing. Amazing. So we, the cast, know, and practically everybody at Hammond understands that A Christmas Story is of Hammond. Why? Because Gene Shepard was from the area, and the whole movie is based on Hammond, Indiana. So tell me more about Gene Shepard's stomping grounds. Like, have you heard any stories about where
Yeah.
events from the movie might have happened?
Oh yeah, yeah. So Gene Shepard, he was born, I believe, in Chicago. Spent his early years in East Chicago, but he moved over to Hessville, which is the southeast corner of Hammond. In 1923, Hammond annexed Hessville, where his stomping grounds, where he grew up, and he actually moved into what was a relatively new neighborhood then called Turner Mine Park, on the north end of Hessville. But Gene Shepard, he's definitely one of our most, if not most famous native sons, graduate of Hammond High School in 1939.
39.
1939, right? Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing.
And so, his childhood home still stand at 2907 Cleveland Street, and 2913 Cleveland Street. I took you by there. They got a leg lamp in one of the windows, which I love. Nice touch. Shout out to Dan Moran. His family's owned that home, 2907 Cleveland, since the 1970s. I also took you by a couple places like where the old Harding School was. Mm-hmm. So he went to Harding School, obviously named for the president. At the time, it was a pretty new school. We've rebuilt it twice since. But, we were able to figure out exactly where the flagpole was, where, Flick and Schwartz and all of them got together and stuck the tongue to the pole. So, we want to get some kind of marker there. We took you by, so, he lived right off 165th Street. So if you're familiar with Chicago numbering, that means about 165 blocks south of the Loop, because we share we touch Chicago, Hammond. So we share, the numbering system and all that stuff. And so off 165th Street, there used to be a trolley that would take you to downtown Hammond or downtown Gary, more of a streetcar. And the famous scene with Goldblatt's looking at the window and all that stuff, and the Christmas displays, and also the old man worked downtown at the Borden Dairy. So they probably took that 165th Street streetcar a lot, and right off of there also, probably when kids were waiting for the streetcar, there was a gas station at the corner of Arizona and 165th Street, a repair shop gas station. I've heard legends that Scott Farkus's dad owned that, and him and Grover used to sit on the roof and throw rocks down at the kids as they were waiting for the streetcar, walking down the alley, and pick fights. And so we took you by the corner where we think if Ralphie really did beat up Scott, this is probably where it happened.
That's probably where it happened.
No, that's probably where it happened, right? Yeah. And it looks, the alley looks right. Looks like
it does. I mean, it's kind of hard not to believe that it didn't happen that way. You know what I mean? Because kids back in those days, like, you can get away with basically anything you wanted to. So that's amazing, man. So now that we do know that there probably aren't people in the town that are named Flick or Schwartz, right? Or there definitely isn't anyone named Scott Farkus, as a matter of fact, but at least I hope not. But have you had a chance to meet anyone who actually personally knew Gene, or maybe even grew up with him?
I've heard some, so I actually found Flick's granddaughter. So Flick did, Jack Flickinger. His dad starred Noble. Flickinger, yes. So Jack Flickinger, he grew up right down the street on the 3000 block of Cleveland Street, a block over from Gene. They probably were really close best friends. I mean, they lived right there next to each other.
Yeah.
But I did actually find the granddaughter. She's still floating around on Facebook if you want to find her. She claimed the tongue stick, was a bit of an embellishment, but of course none of us were there, so you'll find that Gene Shepard, he liked to take a lot of things that happen and mix them with things that he wish happened, or you know what I mean? But that's how any great narrator crafts a story. You start with something interesting and then you make it times 10. But a lot of my information came. I got to give a shout out to Councilman Dave Warple. He's a councilman of the 5th District here in Hammond, and he was a mailman for many decades. His home base was on Kennedy Avenue. Kennedy Avenue is the main drag through Hessville. So that's where all the businesses are and where you get off the highway and all that stuff, and right off of, where they grew up. And he used to go to Flick's Tap. So, And I've heard it called Flick's Tap. I've heard it called Flick's
Right,
Tavern.
right.
But by then, it was a bit of a shadier, seedier bar. But it was right around the corner at 160 northeast corner, 165th and Kennedy. It was there. It was right across from the post office. And Dave Warpool, councilman, used to go in there when he was a mailman and hear stories from a guy who claimed that he was the basis for the bully. I am Scott, you know.
Huh.
So he used to tell him, you know, they used to play dice games, and he'd regale him with stories. And so, you know, he kind of drove him around one time and showed him all the places. And so I've been able to verify a lot of it. Like, okay, where Flick actually lived. This is true. Or, you know, this and that. Other things, take with a grain of salt, right?
Right.
It's part of the legend. It's part of the fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, if people ask, or somebody asks specifically, do you ever give tours of all these cool old landmarks of Kids from A Christmas Story? Is that something you do?
You know, it's not something I do yet, but it is something that we're definitely considering. I would love to put together some kind of little brochure that we could hand out to people with old photos of the, you know, at the time and photos now, you know, maybe a before and after. And, you know, I'm hoping, because, you know, last December, we had the 40th anniversary celebrated, came here to town.
Big event,
a whole bunch of you guys came to town. I think it might have been the most we got in one place of all the cast members.
Yes.
So, you know, last December I was able to show Ralphie and Randy and Schwartz and them around. And it really got me thinking. It was like, well, you know what? This is kind of a no-brainer. Why not show people around town, you know? So I've been trying to get that script worked out, and then maybe work with somebody like the North Township trustee or someone who could, you know, loan us a short bus, and maybe we could do a couple tours. But
that'd be amazing. Yeah.
It's cooking. It's cooking.
Okay, that's awesome.
It's a no-brainer. Yes,
it really is. And you know, I know when fans hear that, man, I can sense the excitement without even seeing their faces. Like, for a lot of the fans, that would be an epic day for them to actually tour. You know what I mean? All of Gene Shepherd's Place, and just to see where all the kids were raised, that reflects the actual movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. And I mean, I can tell, like, the joy on the actors' faces, including you, like, just seeing these places, you know? Yeah. You've been hearing about them. All these fans have been hearing about them for 40 years. It's like, well, it's just a mile and a half off the freeway.
And it's really, it's like
Stone's Throw from Chicago. So, you know, it's something we should definitely work on.
Definitely. Okay, so of course the question is burning inside. Tom, are you a Christmas Story fan? And if there's any parts of the movie, what parts resonate with you the most?
Oh my God! So of course I'm a Christmas Story fan.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah, of course. And growing up, I mean, we watch it every single year, even before the TBS 24-hour thing, wherever it's on, you know. But no, we've always, and it's always just been exciting watching, because it was always, you know, my parents going, oh yeah, this is about Goldblatt. This is about because, you know, my mom grew up in Hammond, so she used to do the traditional all the traditional Christmas Story stuff. You know, go downtown, see the displays, you know, all that stuff. I think I always loved the spoof scenes about the country westerns. Oh my God! And when Ralphie, you know, and then the soap poisoning afterwards. Yeah. I don't know. That always got me. Right? What kid doesn't identify with the dreaded soap bar in the mouth?
Yeah. Well, you know, be honest with you, I think it's our era. You know what I mean? Because nowadays, I don't know if, you know, kids even deal with that nowadays. But I know. Back, you know, in our days, we sure did.
Let alone the phone call from Ralphie's mom to, you know, to the other mom.
Right. The dread phone call.
But I always loved just the Americana and the little things. And of course, growing up here, you hear him mention things like, oh, Griffith, Indiana, or, you know, the Sox game, or, you know, things like that. Or what was it? A tapestry of obscenities still floating over Lake Michigan to this day, you know, for the old man fighting the old clinker boiler. So it's something you identify with being from here, because we're honest, hardworking people, let's just say, you know. The rest about America, you get what you see, you know.
Yeah. You know,
he really, I think, captured that essence of just honest people, you know. No facade, no, you know.
Yeah, nothing. The kids, just a normal day in a kid's life.
Yes.
Who is on a mission, right?
Yes.
Because Christmas is coming up, right? And I know that there are Christmas Story fans all over the world who actually cherish it and love it dearly, because, you know, it brings back memories of their childhood with their family and Christmas and family traditions. But it also, there's so many resonating parts in the movie, and to know that Gene Shepard was so intellectually just into the story of telling a Christmas story that there's so many lessons to be learned in every single scene, you know what I mean? And even like Dr. Schultz, I don't know if you had a chance to meet Dr. Quentin Schultz, who was really good friends with Gene Shepard back when Quentin Schultz was actually teaching in college, and he was teaching storytelling and English grammar. And so he invited Gene Shepard into his class to help teach his students. And they developed a really good relationship. And over those years of teaching Gene Shepard's storytelling methodology, he had gotten a lot of notes and a lot of information. And just recently he released the book. And I'll just show it to you. The book, literally, it's called You'll Shoot Your Eye Out, Life Lessons from a Christmas Story.
Love it.
This is like, it has so many cool little stories about Gene Shepard and him and what those little scenes actually meant to Gene Shepard. You know what I mean? Because what it means to us is how it resonates with our own, experience of life when we were kids.
Yeah.
And then of course it's Christmas time, and this time of the year where we all just feel that spirit of wanting to be together. And so knowing that we have, fans all over the world, and knowing how you cherish this, and knowing that you are in the epicenter of where all the magic actually came from, and not only that, you also hold so much knowledge about the town that he was raised and the movie. How does it feel to you to be a part of that legacy?
Well, it's an honor. I mean, and it's a privilege, obviously. Not everyone gets to be in a position like this. And, last December when it all kind of came together and I gave the little mini tour for, and Irwin was there as well. And he was friends with Gene Shepard later in his life, and he was able to regale me with some, deeper connection points and things like that. But, honestly, it was kind of like after I gave the tour, I was just kind of standing there and let's just say I was singing to myself in my car, buzzing, just feeling like, did this actually just happen? Did I get to show them like the real world connections and put those pieces of the puzzle together for the people who are the movie? You guys, you are the movie, you guys are it.
Yeah.
And so it was humbling. It was a very peaceful feeling, exciting and peaceful, just to be a part of something like that. Because, Hammond, we've been settled in 1851, the Hammond factory came in 1869. A lot of stuff happened leading up to Gene Shepard, and a lot of stuff has happened since Gene Shepard, right? But it's just a moment in time that's forever engraved thanks to this movie and thanks to his books and all that stuff too, and all the writing he did. And it's like, I appreciate it as, a local historian because it's like a time capsule of that period.
Yes.
But I also appreciate it because, let's be honest, Hammond has had its ups and downs like any Rust Belt city. And I feel like A Christmas Story kind of helped put us on the map and maybe in a little way, but it got people thinking about these Rust Belt communities again at a time when America really wasn't, Yeah. We were thinking about the John Hughes suburbs, not the, steel mill cities, you know what I mean, in the 80s.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
It was a nice change of pace, I think, and of course I was born in 89, so I wasn't there when it came out, but it's been a part of my life from it. I don't remember before A Christmas Story, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's amazing. Just to hear that, gives me chills throughout my body, because it's an important piece of Americana history. It truly is, yes. And I know that it is very important. And actually the word important it doesn't really do it justice when it comes to the history of A Christmas Story, the history of Hammond, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's going to be an opportunity to preserve this history, right? And you've been doing it, or it's been happening for years, but now being able to share it, with the community of the fans. Why do you think it's important to you, like your personal experience? Why is it important to preserve all of these places and the stories that all tie us together with the history of the movie and Hammond, Indiana?
Well, and looking at things through a local history lens, the last few years I've really delved deep into the local history and Chicago history and Calumet. Yeah. Sort of the Calumet region, it's known as, because we're part of the Calumet watershed, which is one of the most industrialized watersheds in America. But I've seen a lot of things lost Let's be honest. I've seen a lot of buildings come down, a lot of stories lost to time, a lot of things in those buildings people didn't collect or save, documentation.
Wow.
And so if we're able to have a community that's this excited and this engaged and this rabid in a good way,
Yes.
It's like, why not engage with them? Because we might be able to preserve some of these places and not lose them. I hate to say it, the original, so Flick's Tap ended up moving, and that second location is still there, but the original location came down, and I like to think if the fans, if we could have had more exposure, maybe something could have been done, right? So, the more exposure, the better. And it's also like I can share this history with the local people, but getting it out to the other people around the world who love this movie is just as important as sharing it with the people who, live in town still. So it's a source of strength to have that kind of community, and it's just cool. My whole thing is whatever I can do to share the history, I want to do. Whoever will listen,
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And
Yeah.
I want to say that it is an honor. It is an honor to have gotten to know you at a personal level, at a friendship level, because the amount of information that you have learned, there's so much knowledge that people just don't know. You know what I mean? So I know that we can collaborate in some ways to be able to bring that to people's experiences. So, and it's super important. Like your job is, and most people don't even realize, but what you do is preserving the legacy of A Christmas Story and other parts of Hammond, Indiana for decades to come, right? And that's what's important for those who are from there and who resonates with being part of the history of the growth of Hammond, Indiana. So it's, your position, man, is a very important one. Most people don't know that. So it's an honor to have you on this show, man. Yeah. And thank you again for taking the time to be on this show and talk about the stories of Jean Shepherd, talk about the stories of Hammond, Indiana, some history of it. And I know that we could probably create many different episodes that we probably will. We'll probably explore, just get back together, talk about specific things when it comes to A Christmas Story in Hammond, Indiana. Many of the listeners would never, ever get to hear these stories otherwise, right? So we are so grateful to add them to this large story and helping keep this legacy around A Christmas Story alive. So before we go today,
so be clear, you're saying you're having me back, right?
Yes.
No, because I have so many.
Back, yes.
I know. Obviously, we haven't even gotten to a lot of the stories.
100%. And I think like maybe we should just consider giving you your own podcast channel and calling it The History of Hammond, Indiana, and A Christmas Story, or something like that. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot that we can create. You know what I mean? And
I'm in a unique position to feed you information. Let's just say.
Yes, yeah, and we want to get that information out to the masses, and we'll figure out how to do that. But typically before we go, out of every episode that we do, we always like to end with something fun, right? With all of our guests. So if it's all right, we'd love to play a little game, right? We'll call it From Hammond to Homan. So where I'm going to ask you a Hammond related question, and you can give our listeners some insights into the town that inspired A Christmas Story, which I think they're going to love, right? So, all right, let's go ahead and jump right into this. So, question number one, what location in the real city of Hammond shares its name with the imaginary town Ralphie and his friends lived in?
So Homan, you've lifted that from the main commercial drag, our downtown Hammond, which dates back to the 1870s, has Homan Avenue that runs right through it. Named for the Homan, Caroline and Ernst Homan, came from Prussia via London in the 1850s, settled here, and built a toll bridge to help people get into Chicago. So, Homan Avenue used to be the last stop on your stagecoach before you continued on to Chicago. But that's where Goldplatz is. That's all that stuff.
Okay, so see that piece of history, most people have no idea.
Yeah.
So your stagecoach ended in Hammond. Of course, that's where the department store was. That's where the live with like being able to spend money, right? People.
So So it all formed around the Homan Inn, where you get off and then you might stay the night and then you continue on to Chicago. And then eventually, once the railroads came through and the industry came, then we built the downtown and the Goldplatz in the 1920s and all that stuff. Yeah.
So there is a big department store in A Christmas Story, which we know, right? It resembles Goldblatt's, right? Most people don't realize that that department store in, A Christmas Story is Goldblatt's. And
Yes.
so, what is the name of that department store, and when did it actually exist?
So, Goldblatt's department store, it started out as, I believe it was Lion and Wolf, the building itself back in, the teens or something. But the Goldblatt's brothers, they were a chain throughout Chicago. There's still a few of them standing on the north side and south side of Chicago if you ever want to see. But on Homan Avenue, west side, near the state line, north of Rimbach, was where Goldblatt stood. Multiple stories, they had all kinds of stuff in there. If you ever go, the old school Macy's or Marshall Fields back in the day, they had their fancy restaurant. They had the toy department on the lower level. All the kinds of different things. So Goldblatt Brothers was a chain, and obviously in the movie they call that Higbee's because Higbee's still existed in Cleveland.
Okay.
So it was obvious. Let's use Higbee's. It's there. It's in Cleveland now.
Okay.
But Goldblatt sat at Homan and Sibley, between Sibley and Rimbach on Homan Avenue.
Amazing. Now,
Yeah.
a question for you: the Goldblatt's brothers, are they still around, and also do they have family?
I don't know about their descendants, but basically they founded in 1914, and they were completely closed down by 2000. Started closing down in the 1990s, most of them.
Okay.
But they were one of the, Nate and Maurice Goldblatt. So, they're from Chicago's West Side, and they found a way to succeed during the Great Depression.
Wow.
And that's when they really started getting big. They used to have a flagship at State and Van Buren in the Loop in Chicago. So,
I think it might be it might be one task that we would like to do with you is find their family and see if they still have some ancestors that are still around.
That would be awesome, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
I've got some ideas around
Okay.
that, since that corner is a very special corner, and even though their building's gone, we don't want to lose the history of what happened there for a long time, right?
For a long time,
that
yeah.
building was there for decades, and
better part of a
it
century.
serviced
Yeah.
thousands of people,
Mhm.
and their innovation in building that was a big endeavor. Right. Imagine back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, building a building like that. Outside of Chicago. Right. So that's
right. And I know that they definitely had a few revolutionary ideas and things like that changed the department store landscape. So we can definitely get into them.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Oh,
That'd be
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So the newspaper, the Times of Northwest Indiana, used to have a different name back when it was first published, right back in the 20th century. It may have been the inspiration for the paper Ralphie's father, who read it at the dinner table. What was the original name?
So originally started in June of 1906, the Lake County Times, but people still call it this. It's hard to change what people call things, the Hammond Times. So for most of it, when Gene was around, it was the Hammond Times for a lot of that. And then it's been decades since they've called it that, but people still call it the Hammond Times because, hey, that's what we know it as. Yeah. Yeah.
So lastly, one thing that the movie does capture subtly is the town as an industrial backdrop, right? Especially in the early mid 20th century. So what was the name of the key figure in the town's early industrial growth?
So George H. Hammond Sr. Yeah. And I don't want to forget about Marcus Morton Toll Sr. So George Hammond and Marcus Toll were business partners from Detroit. They came out here looking for a stockyard place. They needed a source for ice. The Grand Calumet River was a great source for ice. There was some flat land alongside it. They didn't want to go to the Union stockyards in Chicago at the time, which was the big ones owned by Amore and Swift and all the big meat companies. But Hammond Meatpacking, they were one of the big four originally. And people have kind of forgotten their name, but George H. Hammond. Now, he went back to Detroit after the place was set up, and Marcus Toll stuck around. But he did send his brother Thomas Hammond, his little brother, to help run things. So George and Thomas Hammond, yep.
That's amazing.
They invented And real quick, they invented the refrigerated rail car. So, fun fact, the first refrigerated meat shipped to the East Coast and even shipped to London, England, came from Hammond, Indiana.
Wow. So they invented the refrigerated car to be able to transport meat over longer distances.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes, which changed everything because you used to have to have a slaughterhouse in your city.
Right.
Now you can put that stinky thing on the outskirts and ship it for Yeah.
Yes, that's amazing. Right on. Right on. Well, Tom, thank you so much for educating all of us more about your hometown, Hammond, Indiana. And I know personally, I owe a lot to this town, as does the rest of the cast of A Christmas Story and the fans who love this movie.
Oh,
it is truly a blessing. It's amazing to learn about all of this through your eyes, specifically because you have a lot of history and a lot of personal experience, as the passion that you have about not only preserving A Christmas Story, but preserving Hammond, Indiana's history.
Born and raised, baby.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. If there is anything else that you'd like to say to the fans, or even to those people that have not had a chance to watch the movie yet, right? Because, you know, we have, I know there's still people that are out there, and then sometimes there's people that this movie doesn't even resonate with, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Because eventually I think it may come back around to them, since it's going to be in their face every Christmas anyways, right? So, if there's something that you'd like to say, another shout out to anybody that you work with, anybody from your family and friends and fans all alike. Yeah.
Well, first off, thank you for making this a phenomenon that's more than just a movie or a book now, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Keep it up. If you haven't seen the movie, not judging you, just fix that. You're not going to regret it. And I got to give a shout out to Nick Mantis and a lot of the work he does. He's a local who's been working on the history of Jean Shepherd as a whole, and flicklives.com. www.flicklives.com. If you haven't checked that out, it's a wonderful resource with photos and all kinds of information about the real life people and the old man and his little brother and all the people involved in the movie. So
that's amazing.
It's an honor, and look forward to keep working with you, buddy.
Awesome. Thanks, man. We will do that definitely in the future. All right. To all the fans, thank you so much. And we will see you shortly. I am so grateful that Tom took the time out of his busy schedule to meet with us today. And he took us on that trip down Homan Avenue, acting as our own personal tour guide through the past. By hearing these stories, chronicling them, and sharing them with others, we are all helping to preserve the legacy of the movie A Christmas Story for years to come and generations to come. So next time you're walking down the street in Hammond, or any small town for that matter, take a moment to look around, listen for the echoes of laughter, the shouts of kids at play, the whispers of shoppers bustling from store to store, because those sounds, those sights, that's the real story. Thanks to people like Jean Shepherd and Tom Novak, we have the opportunity to strengthen our connections to this beloved movie and broaden the scope of our experience, which makes it all the more special. And those of us who helped to create the movie know just how special these important memories and connections are. That's why the A Christmas Story family has come together to create something truly unique just for you. The A Christmas Story immersion experience. Now, just imagine this. You're not just watching your favorite movie sitting on your couch. You're going to be living it. You're interacting with us, the cast, weaving these beloved moments into your family's everyday life. This is the magic that we bring to you at A Christmas Story family. What makes this even more extraordinary is on December 16th of 2023, for the 40th anniversary of A Christmas Story, we held the biggest event in the movie's history in its birthplace, Hammond, Indiana. The night before the grand celebration, we hosted a very special dinner with the cast, including Peter Billingsley, the mayor of Hammond, Indiana, Erwin Zwilling, who is Jean Shepherd's accountant and close friend, as well as a producer on A Christmas Story Christmas, all the board members from the Hammond, Indiana Welcome Center, and many other distinguished guests. And at this exclusive dinner, we unveiled our specially crafted gift boxes. And these weren't any gift boxes. They were designed to look just like the iconic leg lamp crate and filled with major awards that only the old man could dream of. Each of these boxes, valued at over $2,500, was a tribute to the film's legacy and was given to our special guests to commemorate the historic milestone. We only made 28 of these boxes, so they're very rare, making them incredibly valuable and exclusive. But that's just the beginning, because now, For the very first time ever, we're giving you the chance to get one of these exclusive boxes to enhance the new magical experience. And the best part of this is it's free. And to make it even more magical and historic, for the very first time ever in the 40-year history of the movie, we're recreating the original leg lamp design as seen in the movie, an exact replica, and it has never been done before. Our partner, Ruben Fried, the original creator of the leg lamp, and Bob Clark's close friend who still has the original sketches of the leg lamp made for the movie, is bringing the original leg lamp and its original specs and design back to life. And it also comes in that box for free. The cast and I have been working on this secret for months, and now it's time for you to discover its beauty. We invite you to check it out. Give us your honest feedback and join us on this incredible journey together. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Just go to www.christmasstoryfamily.com/freebox to find out more and join us and become a part of our extended family. Your exclusive journey with us awaits you. Bye, you guys. Love you and have a wonderful rest of your month.
Who's next? That deal guy.